when we find someone that needs that complex kitting, that there really is no one else that does what we do. Like, you wouldn't want to.
Step into the future with shipping smart. Outside the box is where the journey starts. From borders to buyers, we break it down fast. Nick and Jason deliver knowledge that lasts. Insight, innovation, wherever your brand goes. We'll guide your growth so your global reach flows. Tune in, lean in, let's unlock the way. Go outside the box with the Senya USA.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Outside the Box with the Senya USA podcast with my co-host, Jason Rowland.
Hey, Nick, welcome back.
Hey, okay, we've got a special guest here today. We've got Nathan Goodrich from FabFitFun, who's the Senior Director of Inventory and Logistics. Thanks for joining, Nathan.
Not a problem. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. Okay, so the topic today we are talking about is a retailer's perspective on logistics.
Yeah, it's really exciting.
This is
the years that this podcast has been going on. It's not really a perspective we've been able to capture,
not at all,
effectively. So I think it's great and welcome, and we're glad to have you, and we're excited to get into it.
Okay, so Nathan, could you introduce yourself to viewers and listeners, and then a little bit about your history, maybe, and what's going on with FabFitFun?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've been with the company about 7 years, worked in a variety of different roles. As earlier stated, inventory and logistics, so warehouse operations, inbound logistics from our Asian supply chain, outbound parcel, both domestic and rest of the world, Canada. FabFitFun is a subscription business targeting women. We primarily focus on consumer products, anything from beauty to home, tech, supplements, etc. The box is a quarterly subscription that has 6 questions that the customer can work through. Each question has a value proposition, starting with hero items in question 1 through a variety of accessory items in question 6. So infinitely customizable, essentially. In winter, we had 2.2 billion possible variations, and we've built our supply chain.
Is it a B?
B. Yeah, 2.2 billion.
So not complicated at all.
Not complicated. That's an interesting part of our business is taking that amount of choice that we provide our members and being able to harmonize that and produce it into something that our supply chain teams can execute on very easily. And we've been able to do that with refining our processing and fulfillment processes over the course of the 7 years that I've been there with the team that I work with. And we're able to take in, for example, 2 weeks ago, we received 450,000 orders in one day, and we spread that out over the next 10 to 12 days, processing, producing anywhere from 50 to 60,000 shipments per day. In the bulk of it, we'll get some orders tomorrow, actually, is our window 2 of our process, and working with a variety of domestic partners, 12 in our domestic network, and we also offer a 3PL business for clients that have similar needs to what we offer our own members.
So you're self-fulfilling, but you also have a 3PL
Yes, we do.
business. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right.
Guys,
Yeah, it's 1.2 million shipments for our 3PL business as well, on top of the 4 or 4.5 that we do for ourselves.
and that really is a situation that makes you unique for you, right? So if from that perspective, from a retailer's perspective who also dabbles in the 3PL space, what does logistics look like to you? Like, what are the important parts? And obviously, being here at Manifest, there's companies here that touch all aspects of that process. So, from your perspective, what does that logistics industry look like?
Right now, it's balancing my brand focus, which is through a subscription lens, and what that means to us is that we need to reduce cost primarily. Our subscription box has an SLA on it that's very forgiving. And the purpose of the cost focus is that we want to put as much money into the box and the product as possible. And we've educated our members and kind of worked on making sure that they understand the reasons why we stretch out some of that work the way we do. Whereas our 3PL business, which is primarily D2C e-com in a traditional environment, speed and service are a little bit more forward for a lot of our brands. They're definitely cost conscious, everyone is, but they have a committed service level of shipment that is a little bit different than what we do. So focusing on how we orchestrate the network for both of those perspectives is somewhat dichotomous. And fortunately, we have a lot of good partners that have allowed us to be successful in that environment, but it is not typical in the way that you don't solve for X. It's a little bit more multivariable.
So kind of a two-parter here. You had mentioned you have some leeway on your SLAs with the box.
Yes.
What does that mean if you're able to share?
Yeah.
And then when I'm looking at, so I've been heavily involved in the subscription box space for a decade, let's say. What's the hardest part of, especially for you guys, of aligning inventory planning with logistics execution?
The inventory planning portion of it is just really the e-commerce area of our business is traditional kind of a 30 to 90 day advanced purchasing cycle.
Okay.
But the box portion is 9 months in advance because we got a lot of depth. We're placing hundreds of thousands of units for the hero items in questions 1 and 2. We may have a 250,000 unit depth item. And in order to get that manufactured to our standards against the timeline that we need with raw materials and factoring and a variety of other things that go into that type of depth of a buy, it takes a little bit of time. So the merchandising cycle is significantly longer. The vendor relationships are a little different. On the box side, e-com side, the vendor cycle is very short. We may see a vendor in the box for 1 season and they may not come back for 2 years or at all. Because of the nature of the trend versus the product categories that we're trying to serve in any one season.
Okay. That's interesting.
It is. So as you're kind of balancing that dynamic between your suppliers and the demand from your customers, where, in your experience, do things most often unravel? Where do they go wrong?
Well, I think operations and supply chain, is strategically easy to understand from a distance, but it's really making sure that all of those points connect. Right, like everyone understands, we make a product, we ingest it on a ocean vessel, and we receive it. But when you have 150 items in the box that are coming from all over the world and domestically, making sure they arrive, that they're compliant, product quality is prepared because we have that huge spike in volume. It's really like getting ready to run, and every week is a different campaign. So the magnitude of getting ready to run is a little bit different. And that's where things don't always line up, with a short vendor life cycle that we were talking about.
Yeah.
People don't really understand that this isn't just a typical e-commerce environment where we can just put it up for sale next week. It's very eventized. And if we miss that, now we have an inventory issue that we might not be able to introduce that again for 3 to 6 months because of the freshness aspect of what's doing for the box. Highly seasonal in some areas, for example, Christmas. So if a vendor misses a Christmas delivery, we have to sit on that inventory for a year. And there's a variety. Yeah.
So you're never talking to them again.
Well, I don't want to go that far down the road, but it does create a lot of difficulty, as you can imagine.
I mean, everything you just said sounds like it's super easy to handle.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So when you're choosing or evaluating a carrier, what signals kind of tell you a little early on that a partner will perform or maybe won't perform, based on what they've committed?
So I think we're very open to trying new partners. I think the barrier to entry or the pretension about what type of carrier we deal with is something that we have broken down because a lot of our successes have been taking a different angle, maybe than a traditional approach. But it does require us, as we have a really fragmented fabric of how we deliver domestically, we need to have a lot of analytics chops. Like we need to really understand not just Wizmo, where is the package, but what type of service is that carrier providing at each step? Is there a dwell time? What are all of the things that would happen when we get to a Christmas launch? For the most part, we have 4 Christmases because of the peak of our season. So we test out a lot of these carriers before we get to a fourth quarter peak period. And we understand going in there that these people have an inflection point. Like they do really good until things get maybe beyond this. And we're working on balancing that and working with them throughout the year to kind of coach them up and get ready. And everybody who's been through a logistics peak, it's all everyone has a plan until you get punched, right? So to speak. And
you can say the whole thing. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
So it's really just making sure that we don't get surprised. That's how we evaluate the different carrier partners based on the education steps that we have throughout the year.
Surprises are no good.
They are not good. No.
So as you guys are navigating those peaks, right, throughout the year, there's, I guess, as a result of just being a subscription box type service, you have long-term relationships with customers as opposed to one-off buy and delivery events, right? So how does that kind of business model change the way you guys think about trade-offs between cost and speed and all that stuff in terms of the logistics carriers?
It is an element of customer education because in order to really get as much value into the box, we have to reduce the cost of the processing and handling as much as possible. We don't want to not serve. We have a high service expectation. Everyone that buys our box or anything else online, ultimately uses the word Amazon at some point. So educating people that if you want the most volume, the value in your product, that we have to have some trade-off somewhere. It's a zero-sum game. And what we're doing is creating that diversity in how we deliver service. Part of that is rate shopping. It's not a new concept, but we employ it with our domestic network to ensure that our cost trajectory is down. And in the face of rising labor, rising real estate, especially over the last 4 years, we've been able to take out millions of dollars, double-digit percentages out of how we contribute to the business based on those types of strategies. So it's been very beneficial.
And a lot of that, I would imagine, is by dabbling in that 3PL space, you're able to kind of put a cap on those peaks or a little bit, or at least raise the valleys a little bit, right? So that's
definitely from a real estate standpoint, idle capacity from a storage standpoint definitely helps contribute accounting wise, contribution margin to all the things that we're doing. Finding the right partner. I think what we do is relatively unique in terms of the kitting. So, what we're interested in and what we really do very well across all markets is that bundling kind of very complex kitting. We do have some relationships with traditional D2C retail flow as well. And I think we do very well there. But when we find someone that needs that complex kitting, that there really is no one else that does what we do. Like you wouldn't want to. And we've had to develop that muscle to survive. And I think we've done a really good job of it.
Good. Okay. So top secret question I'm going to add in that's not on here. What's the big product going to be for 2026? Come on, Nathan.
Yeah, I'd love to spoil you with some great and wonderful, extravagant description of good things, but I think the merchandising team that we have is always striving to do great things.
But all right, so maybe not as hardball as that, but still not, in just as we can explore this topic from a retail perspective, what would you say is the biggest misconceptions that logistic providers have about what retailers need right now?
I think the changing element of my perspective and how, my team upline and downline look at carrier partners is we need the focus to not only be how the package gets there, but we need very, very high skill digital services that surround that, whether it's billing, whether it's tracking events, but also kind of preparation step. Like how are you building your network, and not as a conversation, but what does the package flow look like, and where are your peaks and valleys in processing, so that we can understand how that works. We are not the largest shipper in the country in any means, but we have on multiple occasions taken on a new carrier, and they're like, yes, we can do it. And then we overrun their facility because of the density that we have. Sure. And the information then is highlighted. It's very fragmented. It's hard to catch up. Where do things go? Because people are putting packages in an annex, or they're trying to figure out how to get space in the induct, and all of that. We don't need you to be perfect. We're not going to hold you to a unicorn status, but we want to know where the package is at a very precise level, and then also understand how to file claims and work with you. Things happen, but your business needs to not only focus on one area, it has to bring all of those services digitally and easily so that we can scale that interaction.
So, I mean, in a lot of ways, then you'd almost, what I'm hearing is you'd rather deal with one partner that does a little bit of everything as opposed to somebody that just does one thing.
Well, I think the disruption in the parcel market now means that anybody that's in it needs to do everything, but not just the minimum point of entry. You need to deliver at a very high level with all of those things, because everyone is really competing for the same sub 10-pound packages. And if you're new to that market, great. And we'll take on a gig worker. We'll look at a different delivery model compared to some of the traditional ones, but you can't not do the other things well as well. And that means that we have to be able to communicate to your business very effectively.
You need the post-purchase support.
Exactly.
Every day.
Yes.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks so much, Nathan. Love having you on. And thanks everybody for watching Outside the Box with the Ascendia USA podcast. And we'll talk soon.
So long.
Share, subscribe, and download our podcast. To learn more about today's topic or for a free consultation, email us at ecommerce.usa@ascendia.com. Come back for more insightful discussions on e-commerce shipping to Canada, Mexico, and worldwide.